I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Hi, I'm Luke Ryan, and welcome to Top 5 Movie Mistakes. Whether it's The Empire Strikes Back or whether it's Attack of the Clones, in every movie, somewhere along the way, someone has screwed up. Star Wars. One of the biggest franchises of all time, with arguably the most fervent fanbase in existence, and for the purposes of this series, a run of films that has provided some pretty interesting movie mistakes. But it is finally time to talk about Episode 8, The Last Jedi. What went wrong? How did Lucasfilm let Rian Johnson get away with destroying the entire series? Over the next 80 minutes, I'm going to dissect why. I mean, no. I'm actually definitely not going to do that, as not only would it be pointless, about 700 other people have already made those videos. No, we're here to simply take a light-hearted look at some of the superficial mistakes in The Last Jedi, not to try and break down why the film is apparently so awful, and to pull the curtain back just a teeny bit. For the record, I think The Last Jedi is second only to The Empire Strikes Back, and one of my favourite films of all time, but hey, that's just me. I just want to preempt any "the whole movie was a mistake" comments with the statement that this video is just about goofs, gaffes, and good old-fashioned errors. Alright? Alright. Let's get into it. Number 5. In the opening Dreadnought bomber sequence, just as Poe Dameron is about to engage with the First Order, note the helmet microphone to the left of his face. In a split second, from one cut to the next, the microphone switches from being pushed up and away from his face to turned in towards his mouth. When it magically flips in front of his face, he starts to address the other ships of the fleet, so I imagine there is a take out there somewhere where he does flick the microphone down, but hey, the movie is 2.5 hours long, I think we can let go of those 19 frames. Number 4. During the sequence where Rey is following Luke Skywalker across the island of Ahch-To, her blaster, given to her by the late Han Solo, is holstered on her left hip. As she continues to follow Luke and watches him milk a space cow in a scene that absolutely didn't ruffle any fan feathers at all, her blaster is now holstered on her right hip. The blaster is seen multiple times on her right hip, so I can only assume that the one shot where it's holstered on her left was flipped horizontally. Number 3. When we first meet Luke and Rey in The Last Jedi, they're right where they were when we last left them in The Force Awakens. That sequence took place on a grey, overcast day, a suitable atmosphere for the uncertain and mysterious reveal of an aged Master Skywalker. In The Last Jedi, the weather is appropriately matched, grey and overcast. But when Rey approaches Luke and we move into close-up, it is suddenly sunny. There's not too much they could have done about this, though I suspect somewhere George Lucas is chuckling over their silly insistence on shooting on location. But another mistake in this scene comes when Rey finally hands Luke his old lightsaber. He accepts the hilt and Rey takes a few steps back, no more than 3. But suddenly, she is now around 8 to 10 paces away from him, the distance jarringly different. Number 2. When Finn is attempting to leave the Resistance ship in an escape pod to go and find Rey, he checks his backpack just outside of the pod. Rose interrupts him and he leaves the backpack on the floor. As the scene progresses, Finn tries to hide the fact that he was getting into the escape pod as his backpack is just inside. But there was literally no point where he could have got the backpack from the floor into the pod. This one I just don't know how it slipped by. Number 1. While many have argued over The Last Jedi and will no doubt continue to until the end of time itself, I think the one moment that most people can agree on being a pretty standout scene is the duel between Rey, Kylo Ren and the 8 Praetorian Guards. Set against the backdrop of the Argento-red throne room with hero and villain teaming together to fight for their lives, it made for an incredibly cinematic and impressive action sequence. But there is a mistake, so bizarre, so unexplainable, that it had to make the top spot. Take a look at some of this scene and try to spot the glaring error. So, did you spot it? There's this little beat where Rey is taking on a guard wielding two short blades, and she gets caught in an arm lock. Her way out is an ingenious one that confuses the guard and costs him his life. But if we really look at this one shot, the blade in the guard's left hand just disappears. It ceases to exist. It vanishes. I just have no idea how this happened. You could argue he dropped the blade, but that would A, be out of character for such a highly proficient fighter, but B, you never see a blade on the floor. Especially in the moment when Rey kills him, you can clearly see the floor where they were both stood, and yeah, no blade. Ultimately, it's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but how can you really complain about it when this happens mere seconds later? Awesome. But still, this mistake is one of the more bizarre and confusing ones I've probably ever seen. If you haven't seen our previous videos in the Movie Mistakes series focusing on the ever-expanding Star Wars saga, make sure you go back and check out our top 5 movie mistakes videos for the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, The Force Awakens, and Rogue One. Until next time, may the movie mistakes be with you.